Yay, this is a Gauntlet Hangout. This is an off-calendar game, but we're playing Familiars of Terra. None of us have played this game before, so we don't know all the rules and all this stuff, but we're gonna have fun. So, before we kind of get into the intro, I want to talk about what safety tools we're using. Um, the safety tools that I like to use are the X card and lines and veils. So the X card is a tool that we can use basically to kind of monitor the content in the game. And if you're ever uncomfortable, you can, in a physical game, usually we would have a card with an X on it that you could tap. But since we're online, we could do something like, I'd like to X that, or even something like, can we change that? And basically, if you're ever uncomfortable or don't want to see something, you can say that. I might ask you a clarifying question to make sure I understand what you're Xing, but you never have to explain why you're Xing something unless you want to. I'm not going to stop you from wanting to like have a conversation about it. And there's no shame in using it. You can X me, you can X another player. I might X you as the GM if there's something I'm uncomfortable with. So it's really just to kind of help us express what we don't want in the game, and like we can, if we X something, we can roll it back a little bit and then just remove that content from the game. And then the second tool that I like to use is something that we do before we start play, and that's lines and veils. And does everybody have the folder, the Google Drive folder that I shared? And then in the Google Drive folder, I have the character keeper, which is, Adam, that's what we kind of call the Google Sheets where we put in all the character information. It's an online replacement to character sheets. Puckett, I'm pretty sure I think I think I shared it with you like 45 minutes ago, but oh yes, that will also work. See if that works, the link that Adam shared. Does that work for you? Okay. Let me change the access. Oh, wait. Oh, I hate it when it does this. That was just the character keeper.
It's all good. Take your time.
So click.
Got it now.
You got it now? Okay.
Yes.
If you're just in the Google, if you're looking at the Google folder, but you have like a link selected and you click like share the link, it will just do that one document you have selected and not the whole thing. So the Google Sheet Familiars of Terra Character Keeper 1.1, there is a tab at the bottom that says Lines and Veils. And so a line is basically something that should not be in the game at all. Like content that you don't want to see in the game at all. And then a veil is something that is it can be there, but it can't happen on screen, or it should just be in like the backstory. Um, for example, one of the veils that I always put is sexual violence, and specifically, I'm okay with it being in a character's backstory, like if they're motivated to like get revenge against somebody, or um, it's in a character backstory or it's in history, it's okay. But I at no point do I want to see it on screen, or use it as like a plot device. Other examples, sometimes people don't want to align or veil like torture or violence against children, violence against animals. Unfortunately, this entire game is magical animals fighting. So violence against animals might mean this isn't the game for you, because in this world, people don't fight. Their familiars fight each other, except like when you're using like bombs. But like one-to-one combat is all done between the familiars.
Could we put a line on graphic violence or veil the violence in that case?
Yes, we can do that. In the combat they will like you'll kind of say what like powers you're using and stuff, but we can put like a line or a veil on it, and kind of do it like the way I was thinking of it is like it's like Pokemon or
Mhm.
Digimon, where you see
Yes.
them fighting, but there's no blood. They're not dying.
They get
They're
knocked out and then the handler cares for them, that sort of thing.
yeah.
Okay.
So is that fine?
Oh yeah. Yeah. I wanted to avoid like really, really super graphic depictions of like, teeth tearing muscle and that sort of thing.
Oh yeah, no. That's. Do you want that to be a veil or a line?
Um, I'm fine with it being a veil. I mean, this is going to be a game, as you pointed out, in which, familiars fight each other.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. We can definitely do it kind of anime or Pokemon style, where they're like kind of tussling and stuff, but we don't really see the blood or like injuries ripping open or anything. And then another thing I want to talk about while we're doing lines and veils is the adventure that I had planned for this does go into the Badlands, so in this world, basically it's set 50 years after a nuclear war. So Badlands are areas that were devastated by nuclear bombs, and now they're kind of solely inhabited by like mutated creatures and ghosts, violent ghosts. So that can definitely get into horror territory, and I just wanted to see if kind of related to that, if there's anything that you all wanted to put under lines or veils. Okay, well, I will say that we can always change or add to lines and veils throughout the game. You can upgrade a veil to a line and add to either. So just like pause the game and say like I want to add XYZ to be a line or veil. Great. Um, so for our veils, we have sexual violence and graphic violence right now. Um, And just what I will say is if you add something, just say that you added it, because we probably won't be looking at this tab all the time. And the same thing with Xcard. You can um, write it in the chat or do like an X like this, but um, I usually say, just to be sure, in these games where we're switching between like multiple screens, it's always good to say it out loud to make sure that I know that you said it. So um, I'm going to read some introductory text to the game to kind of get us in the mood of the game. so that we kind of get a sense of what's happening. Familiars, animal companions who are a part of the human soul, half of a whole. Faithful friends who watch over humanity, care for it, protect it. Where there are humans, there will always be familiars. So it has been, and so it shall always be. In Terra, all animals, human or otherwise, live totally interconnected with one another. Streets are bigger, cities are greener, and animals are everywhere. Every person has a familiar, an animal they are bonded to and will live the rest of their lives with. In Familiars of Terra, you play a seeker from one of the 5 great nations on the continent of Tyr. Together with your animal familiar, you'll go on amazing adventures, explore the countryside, and secure your legacy for years to come. Seekers and familiars of Terra feel a call to something greater in their life. Unlike a typical person who goes on about their daily life with their familiar, with the same cares and fears any person might experience, the character you play in Familiars of Terra is made for something greater. They take to the road, they embrace adventure, and they help the needy. Whether you will be the next leader of a nation, a folk hero, or save the continent from the brink of war, the story of you and your familiar will be legendary. Familiars of Terra is a game for all audiences with a rich and layered setting. The continent of Tyr is at peace 50 years after a long of devastating war. But trouble is already brewing anew. The war left Badlands, dark rifts that spread corruption like a sickness. The nationalistic forces that plunged the continent into war half a decade ago are on the rise again. The land calls for seekers, humans and their animal familiars who risk everything to right the war's remaining wrongs and prevent a new one. Familiars of Terra is about colorful pets and adventures which make you consider morality and choices. It's about the unique and spiritual bond between human and animal. It's about being the generation who must heal the world. So I will say that um, so in this game, it's sort of a fantasy world because of the familiars, but besides the familiars, there's no like magic. Like there's no mages. We don't use spells. And there is basically a lot of technology. Like one of the things we have is a mobile device, which allows us to tell a regular animal from a familiar. Basically, there's about the same level of technology as we have now, except the technology is like more like green energy, environmentally based. But like as I mentioned, they had nuclear bombs and stuff. So as opposed to like kind of like a normal fantasy world that's a little more historical, this is very like technological and like contemporarily analogous, but just with the familiars and the more like focus and obviously like the different cultures. So now we're gonna kind of go into character creation. So Yoshi is gonna help with character creation.
Sure. So if everybody can look at the Google Drive folder, I started to make a character creation guide, and that you can follow along with what's going on there. For me, I have the distinct advantage that I can have them on 2 different windows because I have 2 screens. So if you have that ability, I think it makes sense. But if not, everybody's going to pick one of these like colored boxes in the character keeper. Um, for me, I am just going to grab the first one, the red one, and I'm going to put my name in the top where it says player name, my pronouns in the section just below. For character creation, we're going to be basically making 2 characters. We're going to be making our seekers and our familiar. So we can start with the seeker, and then we'll get onto making the familiar afterwards. So let's see. In the character creation, I personally choose to go with my name and stuff afterwards, um, and figure things out. But in the character creation guide, I've given you a bunch of like names for the different like uh, home nation. So whichever nation you have, you've got your given names and your kin names and surnames and things like that. Um, Noella, do you want to give us a brief like overview of the different nations?
Yes. So I just wanted to say this. Well, I have two things to say. So on the character keeper, it has a little box that says image link. I have not made it work where it will automatically populate the picture yet. So I apologize. You will have to put your own picture in there if you want to. But so, and yes, every nation has a specific like name structure. So keep that in mind, like before you pick a name. And like even with the first names, some nations have like a specific things like the drill people. The drill people have like virtues as their first name, like strength or prudence, and then you can have a nickname. Um, so there are 5 different um, nations. And if you go to the last tab in the character keeper, there's a map. Um, so going from south to north, there is Amirland, which is the richest nation. And because of their like socialist structure, they have like basically even if you're the poorest person in Amirland, you're probably better off than the poorer people in some of the other countries. So there's 5 dynasties, and each person is a part of one dynasty, and like it's much bigger than like a family group that you would think of because each dynasty has like thousands of people in it. And each dynasty also specializes in different things. And I think there's a council that has a representative from each dynasty as the leaders of the country. And in Yoshi's guide, um, they he's put well, he's started putting some of the home nations. Also, in the quick start guide, I believe there are little blurbs for each of the, yes. So, if you look on the map at the very bottom, there's like a little squiggly line between the Waterlands and the rest of Amirland. So so the most important event in recent history was this Great War, right? In this Great War, um, so there was a sacred site in Endril. Um, it's on the map. It was called Hanil. Basically, the drill people believed that it was like the place on Earth, well, on Terra, where you could find an entrance to like the afterlife. Essentially, their beliefs about the afterlife are different from theirs, but basically, that it was like a very sacred site. But the people from Inther had been devastated by like several droughts, and their resources were dwindling, and so they wanted to basically develop that land. Um, and basically, um, Plinth and Inther kind of declared war and bombed. Well, they started with bombing the sacred site and drill to they like bombed Hanil, the sacred site, to demoralize the drill people. Um, and so, but
Hey,
Plinth,
Noah, can I take back over because I don't really quite want this much history yet. I want to
okay,
get more into
sorry.
um, getting some characters created. So if you look back at the character creation guide, I want to rearrange this eventually, but like if you scroll down, um, there's like a thing about titles, and that will give you a good like heading of what kind of characters come from these nations. So I'll read them out right now. It's hard for me to tell on what page for Google Docs this is, but it's there. So it says, yeah, Adam, you found it. Fantastic. Of Amerland. So they are family, trade, and art. The Amoris treasure family more than anything else, and they know the creation of beauty is its own reward. So if you're of Endril, you value spirituality, exploration, and community. The Drill understand the bond between human and familiar, respecting nature and all it has to offer. If you're from Fendair, you value peace, kindness, and humility. The Fendarians enjoy living a good, simple life surrounded by those dearest to them. If you're of Inther, you value ingenuity, humor, and survival. The Inth excel at creative problem solving using whatever's at hand to thrive. And if you're of Ratha, you value pride, wit, and strength. The Rathans know that excelling in your chosen field brings glory to your community. And so that shall hopefully give some idea of like what nation and what kind of people hail from those nations. Choosing which is your home nation is going to give you an immediate title. So if you're already looking at that section right there, it will give you like you'll see the bonus, that the wisdom that it says there is that bonus that you're going to get. So choosing which home nation you have will give you some leaning towards to what type of character you're going to make, but you're going to be making some other choices later on. So even if you want to value one of these things, you can be from somebody else entirely. Cool. And because I like character creation to be a communal thing, if people know what they're thinking of leaning towards, I think we should just talk it out and figure it out. So,
Yeah, I was thinking Endril.
do it.
And where do I know that kind of somewhat determines my name and stuff, but where would I just sort of start noting that?
It's going to be in the titles and trophies, so you can probably put like of Endril as your first title.
Okay.
Am I correct in seeing bunnies in Fendair on the map?
Let me go look at the map.
In Nor?
Yeah.
Yes, there's a bunny on Fendel.
Oh yeah, I see a bunny.
Okay.
Yay, bunny, and horses and deer and a lion and a monkey.
No, I had that, like I had thought about like a familiar kind of like a concept for my character. So the familiar that I was thinking about was the hermit crab.
Okay.
And the idea being like one of, I looked at like the bonding and protection, kind of calling and promise, I think those were. But basically someone who kind of like wants to expand the community, like connect with their familiar, but protect and bring other people into a closer relationship. So that it's kind of like a communal mysticism kind of approach.
Nice. I think I am going to be of Fendair. That's where I'm leaning right now.
So should we all have a different one, or?
Nope.
Okay.
If you want to do the same as somebody else, that is in no way a problem.
Okay. I just saw the bunny. So
do it. If you want a bunny, take your bunny. So once you have which one of Fendair that you're going to pick, you're going to want to pick a calling and a promise. So that's going to be things of like, why why are you out here doing stuff? So if you look on the guide, there's adventure, beauty, bonding, fortune, heroism, and vengeance. And then within each of those, they have a different promise for it. For example, in adventure, the promises are fun, hope, and novelty. So read over those sections. I copied them all out to that thing, and you can figure out which one of those things you want to do. And this will kind of give you a lot of drive for what your character is about. And then you're going to put those things in the calling and promise thing section.
And then what specifically is a promise again?
So like the promise is like one of those sub things. So like if I chose adventure fun, the promise would be nothing can get in the way of you having an enjoyable time.
Okay.
So I'm going to choose bonding and land. And land kind of interpreted a little more widely than land
Right.
and life as we know it.
That's good. I'm kind of leaning towards beauty and love. You live to bring together people together in romance or friendship. Cool. All right. So if we have all of those down, then the next thing is we're going to mark 7 points in each attribute. And then we're going to get 5 additional ones that we want on top of our 7. So the attributes or the stats are agility, awareness, charm, might, and wit. So agility is things like balancing, sneaking, stealing, dodging. Awareness is stuff like spotting things, spotting emotions, investigating. Charm is convincing, lying, flirting, performing, creating art. Might is lifting, pushing, breaking, throwing, endurance, pain tolerance. Wit is studying, writing, puzzle solving, retorting, contests of will. So everybody's going to start with 7 in everything, and then you're going to have 5 more additional points. Then you can bump those up in different ways. Just so you know, the basic mechanics for how all this stuff works is that you're going to, whenever a check is performed, you're going to take your deck of cards or your online deck of cards, you're going to flip over the top card, and you're going to see whether that card is less than or equal to like the attribute that it's associated with. So like if I was trying to sneak into something, that would be a sneaking check. And so I'd flip over the top card, and if the card I drew, so like if this were the 8, if as long as my agility is 8 or above, I'm successful. So you want to draw a card lower than what your attribute score is. So higher attribute scores are better, means you're better at that thing. And then you're trying to draw under it. Again, aces are low. So like depending on what you're thinking your character is going to be, you're going to bump different things up, but you're going to have a base minimum of 7 in all of those stats. Cool. So it looks like we've more or less got that down. Neat. Okay. So the next thing we've already started with the next part, which is getting your title. You start with one title based on what nation you're from. So we've already got those things. Um, you're going to pick some additional titles. So you can either choose one more title and one trophy, or two more titles or two more trophies. So basically, you get two more things, your choice of titles or trophies. I started putting all of the titles into that sheet. I did not complete that. So there's a good section of the titles in there. If you look at the Google Drive folder, the book is there, and it's from pages 27 to 34 for the titles, and then the trophies are page 34 to 37. So like flip through those, read over a couple, and figure out what you want. Again, I like being vocal about figuring out how things are working together. I'm pretty sure I'm taking compassionate as a title.
think I'm going to take healer as a title.
Nice.
And how do the trophies work? And then what are they? I kind of glanced at it in the book, but we kind of just make up an object and.
Sorry, yeah. Yeah, you're exactly right. Is that there's some guidelines for the trophies. So, for the sake of the audience listening, like titles, trophies are rewards seekers gain through their adventures. Sometimes trophies are given to a seeker by someone, but sometimes they're found along the way. Each trophy holds a certain power or gravitas that makes people wonder at the item and want to hear more about it. And so these are symbols and things that are important to you or and symbolize some important event, just like a title did. And so they'll help you sort of like reputation and things like that, and give people openings and ends to things. But like they're kind of like magical items in the sense that you know how like classically like good magical items don't necessarily just give you a +1, but they allow you to do additional little things. Those are what those quirks are, is that they'll allow you to take this little option or thing that you would not normally get otherwise.
Hey, I'm sorry, but I just started to feel really bad, so I think I have to stop. So you guys can continue playing if you want, but we could also reschedule for another time.
Okay. Do you think I'm good to stay around for a little bit and maybe finish making some characters and we can talk about those? And if we want, we can reschedule for some other time to play the first session. Does that sound good with everybody?
Sounds good. Excuse me. Sounds good to me.
Yeah, me too.
Okay, see you guys later.
Take care.
All right, thanks. Bye.